Wow, this was not what I thought I was going to make. Mike Brown's been fired. The report right here, if we want to read it, first reported by ESPN's Sean Charania. In the midst of a 5-game losing streak, 12, 11, 17, they are in 12th place. They're actually only 2 games away from the 8th seed and 4 games away from the 6th seed. So the team has not been lost. And Mike Brown had actually signed a 3-year extension with the team through 2027 with the Kings, and now he has been fired. The coach of the year from the 2022 to 23 season, the man who ended the Sacramento Kings, playoff drought, is now gone. I want to say something. I have been told by a media member that last week or the week before, Mike Brown made all media, I think he confiscated all media members' phones, and then he made all the media members watch him break down like everything that was wrong in the Sacramento Kings' game. And that's not really a great thing to do. And I have been hearing that trouble had been brewing in Sacramento. And I like Mike Brown as a coach and as a person. And I think the bigger problem was not Mike Brown. The bigger problem was the way this team was built. I don't know if, before we continue, Sacramento Kings fans, we're going to talk about your guys' interim head coach who's not been announced yet, but we're going to give you guys the guys who are the potential options like Jim Moran and Riccardo Fois and Jay Triano, as well as Doug Christie are the 4 guys that people are talking about as the interim head coach. So we'll talk about that, but I do want to talk, look. I had Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox, and DeMar DeRozan was never going to be a good defensive team. No offense to Keegan Murray, they don't have a true shooting guard or power forward that are like Keon Ellis is awesome, but he's not going to alleviate the defensive liabilities that are here constantly. So there were so many things that needed to be addressed that still haven't. I just look at that, and I think the bigger thing that we need to realize. First off, they're trying to do everything to keep De'Aaron Fox. They need to keep De'Aaron Fox, and I wouldn't be surprised if this firing was at the request of Clutch Sports. I want to hear you guys' thoughts. Let's get into the rest of this video talking about who could potentially replace Mr. Mike Brown this season and what could the future have in store. So let's get right into it. Hit that like and subscribe button for more content like this. And yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one moving forward. So let's break it down. Why did they fire the man, Mike Brown? So the Sacramento Kings' decision to fire Mike Brown marks a stunning midseason shakeup for a franchise that has playoff aspirations. Brown, who signed a 3-year extension through the 27 season after that historic 22-23 campaign that ended the 17 playoff drought, found himself ousted following the 13-18 start. The team's struggle in clutch situations and a 5-game losing streak proved to be the tipping point for management. Brown's tenure began with promise, but faltered this season. The Kings ranked 12th in the Western Conference and 5th in the Pacific Division, and they just have had inconsistent performances, both offensively and defensively. While the team managed a respectable 114.7 points per game, which is 7th in the NBA, their defensive lapses have just allowed opponents to average 113.6 points per game, which is 17th in the league, and they just can't close out games. Offensively, the Kings were among one of the leaders in free throw percentages, 4th best, and field goal percentage with the 8th best, as well as Domantas Sabonis, De'Aaron Fox were, you had Sabonis averaging 21 points, 13 rebounds, and 6 assists, shooting 60% from the field, while Fox is having 26 points and 6 assists a night. And Sacramento, though, is the 3rd worst opponent 3-point percentage team. People are shooting 37.5%, and they've struggled to limit, turnovers and key moments. Like, they really just haven't been able to do anything about it, and they have recorded 13 clutch time losses, the most in the NBA. Their net rating is actually middle of the pack, plus 1.2, and they actually also rank bottom half in the league in rebounds, steals, and blocks. I think this just shows, even though the roster's flawed, the shortcomings reflect that the system in place went beyond player performance and just they needed some sort of tactical overall. So who are the interim coaching candidates for the Sacramento Kings? I think the Kings are looking for stability and interim coach. This is the 4 guys that we're hearing. Riccardo Fois. I said Richard Fois. I meant Riccardo Fois. Riccardo Fois, he's from Italy. Jim Moran, and Doug Christie and Jay Triano. Jay Triano, I believe, is the only one who has NBA coaching experience. Jim Moran is a 48-year-old who played for Gran Canaria, and he played at William and Mary. He was an assistant coach for the Blazers and Pistons, and now he was actually the Rip City Remixes coach last year. This year, he's now with the Kings on their coaching staff. So he's a guy who has experience. There's also, like I said, Riccardo, who he played professionally, played it in Pepperdine, then played in Italy, and he's been a coach ever since. Coached at college, coached for the Italian national team, coached with the Suns, then Arizona, and now he joined the Kings this offseason. So both Jim Moran and Riccardo's the youngest. Riccardo's only 37. Jim is 48. You have Jay Triano, who's the associate head coach. He's 66 years old. He's been an associate head coach multiple times. He's been an interim head coach. He also was the head coach of Toronto Raptors and the Phoenix Suns. He also coached Simon Fraser. By the way, he was a guy who played like Canadian football as well. So kind of wild. And lastly but not least is former NBA players Doug Christie and Leandro Barbosa. Barbosa probably not, but Doug Christie, he's 54. He's been the Sacramento Kings assistant coach since 2021. And look, let me explain what's about these guys. So Riccardo is a player development specialist. He's, like I said, he's worked with colleges like Gonzaga and the Phoenix Suns. He was a director of analytics at one point, so he's actually known for his analytical approach and emphasis in skill building and individual player growth. And Riccardo's prioritizes player-centric coaching, focuses on improving shooting mechanics and basketball IQ. He's a guy who probably looked to maximize young players like Keegan Murray, while Jim Moran spent over a decade in the European leagues as a player before transitioning to coaching, and he's been an assistant coach, as I said, with the Blazers and Pistons, and he's actually really known as a defensive coach. His defensive schemes, he's known for emphasizing team-oriented defense and energy off the court, on the court and off the court, as just the guy who really loves defensive ball. So if they're really trying to establish a defensive culture, and when they want to go younger, it could be Jim. Now, Doug Christie, a former Kings player, he's going to be a guy that the fan base really like. He's deeply familiar with the organization. He's been a part of the coaching staff since 2021. He went from a broadcaster to coaching, and he has a deep understanding of basketball dynamics. And he's going to bring passion, intensity, and install that defensive identity that he played with, hopefully fostering that into the team culture. And I think his connection to the franchise is probably going to be something that really resonates with the fan base and something that they could consider to be what they want, as it'll really help the fans believe in him. Now, Jay Triano is the only one with head coaching experience, the Raptors, the Suns, and he's a very well-versed offensive coach, can manage player minutes, as well as a guy who's going to creatively rejuvenate the Kings attack to make it look different than what it is by leveraging, Sabonis and Fox and pick and rolls and off-ball actions to maximize their efficiency. So I think obviously what they're really going to need to do is choose a coach who's going to help their defensive shortcomings and have a guy who's going to help a disciplined coaching style that's going to be player first, which, if we have to be honest, I feel like Jim Moran might be the guy that they should look for or use. I just think that's he's got to be the guy that they go after now. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, but I want to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section. What do you guys expect and why? And do you think they can turn their season around? They're not too far from being able to do what needs to be done, so I don't think waving the white flag is needed. Everything can be turned around. That's where I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Let me know. Peace out.